a game changer, an event, idea, or procedure that affects a significant shift in the current manner of doing or thinking about something. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Game Changer Podcast. Join me and all of my friends as we look over different topics, ideas, look over different events, popular subjects, not so much popular subjects, even random ideas that you probably wouldn't even think about. As we dive into these things, give our perspectives as well as give our opinions about these perspectives, we give you guys something a little bit more to think about. Why? Because we believe in changing the game. Why? Simple. Because we can. Welcome to the Game Changer Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Strap yourselves in. It's going to be a wild and crazy ride. What is up, you guys? Welcome to another edition of the Game Changer Podcast. I am indeed Nate the NateFNGreat, and I'm being joined here by the always beautiful, always lovely, and always a bit sarcastic VictoriBelle. Hey, howdy, hey, how you doing?
I almost feel like I should have answered with something sarcastic, but it was like, how do I say hi sarcastically? Like, hi? Does she want to say it? No, she didn't.
Hi, hello, whatever. So welcome back again, you guys, to the Game Changer Podcast. Actually, the third time I'm recording this week, but you know something? It's worth it. We're going to be going a little bit back in time to a place that we've actually haven't dug into in quite a while, and that is the series that we like to call Underrated, Underappreciated. Honestly, this is either part 3 or 4, if I'm not mistaken, because I know we did a few of these in the past, but I can't remember exactly what the number was. We'll just assume it's 3. Just make it, make it a trilogy. Call it good for right now. So, I actually got some really good American-type TV shows that we were going to be talking about, but VictoriBelle actually went in a different direction, and honestly, I'm very interested in hearing what this list is about. VictoriBelle, what the hell kind of list did you compile?
Well, I was kind of talking to you earlier about it. I was like, well, underrated and underappreciated. I feel like I probably have talked about a little bit of anime once in a while, but I'm like, I think anime in general is a little underrated and underappreciated. I think it has a big stigma of being very, very nerdy and out there and too kawaii, meaning cute. But I think it has a very strong following for a reason, and people who don't, that enjoy other series and other genres also really enjoy anime, and I just think it's a scary thing sometimes for people to want to even dabble in. So I decided I wanted to kind of highlight anime this episode. So if people, maybe they will be less afraid and want to just dip their toes in the waters of animation and anime in the Eastern cultures.
Hey, honestly, I'm all for it. And again, I'm interested in hearing what these series you have compiled is. But I'll start off with one from my list. I'm actually going to go with kind of an easy one just because of the fact that some of these I am going to basically say that, hey, these deserve a reboot. This one, it's a take it or leave it deal. One that I actually enjoyed growing up was a TV series called Inspector Gadget. No, not that one. Get Matthew Broderick out of here. I'm of course talking about the animated series of Inspector Gadget, the classic cartoon deal where we had, a crazy, wild inspector doing these crimes and taking on these crimes, I should say. He's not doing the crimes. That's not until the movie. Oh, God, I'm going into a dark place. He basically is a crime fighter. He's basically solving mysteries. Of course, he has his niece and a dog that's basically helping him out along the way, and they're battling the evil Dr. Claw, which is honestly still one of the most intimidating villains because, A, you don't see his face, and B, he has that menacing voice. And I thought, okay, they can't do this up and up. The first one, they screwed it up. Second one, okay, they did a little bit of a better job. Still number one is the animated deal, because like I said, you don't see his face, you just see a robotic, like a metal hand, and he just devises this plan. He just has this dark and sinister voice that he will always try to seem like he's going to have this very crazy idea going through. Geez, I almost went into like a Kool-Aid Man deal there, but geez, that's a little harder to do than I thought it was going to be. But no, it's just one of those animated series that I appreciate for the fact that it was, awkwardly humorous. It had some really good action sequences, and plus, a guy can basically spring out anything out of his body, whether it's handcuffs, springs, whether it's a helicopter, whether he can inflate his whole body, whatever it is, he just does a fantastic job of creating these deals. And it's always really funny because the crime fighter, Inspector Gadget, is, of course, oblivious half the time, so it is kind of one of those situations where you're like, dude, this is a bad guy, and he's just like, no, he's just cranky. It's like, no, he's a bad guy. Hello, and it's not until like 2 or 3 minutes after he's like, wait a minute, I think that was a bad guy, and we're all just like, of course. Now you've connected the dots. Great job, Inspector Gadget. Great job.
Yeah, I remember the old cartoon. It was on the Disney Channel, right?
I think that was actually a Nickelodeon one. Or it might have been Disney Channel. I can't remember now, actually.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what I watched it on, but I definitely remember it. He had a very long face, and I talk kind of like this, and stuff, like, very nasally. But no, it was good, and I know you hated the, real life movies, but I didn't mind them. At least the first one, I don't think I ever saw the sequels, because why? So I liked it going to live action. I think it would kind of be cool if they rebooted not the cartoon, but a live action series, because, it's kind of the new thing now. Everybody's going live action.
Yeah, no, that is very true. Will they ever do that? Well, who knows. They need the right actor. Just, again, don't put in Matthew Broderick, because he still, in my opinion, ruined the series for me. But that's me. I've already talked about it so many times. Moving on. Hashtag NateFNGreat. What's the first nice little series that you have on your list?
I love how you're like, nice little series. I'm like, this one is a very nice little series. So first off, and I apologize if I've spoken about all these before, but they are like some of my all-time favorite animations. So my first one I'm going to pick is a very, I think a lot of females really like this one. So I will kind of tell you guys like what I think the genre is. Sometimes they have specific genre names, but I'm just going to go with this one's a little more female eccentric, but it is a rom-com, so very humorous. It's called Ouran High School Host Club, and it is on Netflix. It came out probably over 10 years ago, so even when you see it on Netflix, it's going to be, not wide enough for your TV because it's very old, but it is just so cute. And basically what it involves is a host club is a club of gentlemen who are basically kind of doing services for women. So it's not like sexual. They have a very romantic vibe, but it's more like princely, like, may I serve you tea? Can I do this? Kind of like a butler thing, but they're also all extremely good looking, extremely rich, and extremely wealthy. I already said rich and wealthy, but we'll say it again. men who go to Oran High School, and it's about a girl that gets a scholarship to go there, and she's super poor, so she gets a scholarship to go there, and she's looking for a room to study in, and she looks kind of like a guy because she doesn't dress like a girl, and she has really short hair and big, thick glasses. So she goes into this room, finds this host club, who they think she's a guy, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is the poor kid. Oh my goodness, look at the poor kid. Like, this is crazy. Look how he looks. And she's just like, and then she freaks out and breaks something within their host club that costs over like 80,000 or 80 million yen, which, yen goes up there, but that's a lot of money. So in order to pay back the host club, she has to work for them as a host. So she cross-dresses as a guy in that school. And it's just a bunch of humorous situations that they get into that are just like, like she's cross-dressing and they're trying to keep her secret away from the school. And it's hilarious, but what I really like about any animation series that I watch is they really do try to give you like these great themes and these great takeaways from some of the episodes. Given some of the episodes, they just want it to be stupid and funny. But they also try to like give you a really good background of who these characters are and really grow them. So you'll meet some of the characters and you'll think like, oh, this character is really stupid. And then they'll give them their own episode where you realize why they are the way they are. And it tries to really give you a slice of life type of feel, which is another genre of anime, but I would definitely make this a rom-com. It's hilarious. It likes to make fun of anime while being an anime. Like, it literally will be like in the first episode, it's like, oh, like, okay, so there's 7 guys, 1 girl. He's like, oh, so you guys are all my homosexual, like, side characters. Like, the main guy says that, and they're like, what? Like, they freak out. It's very funny and enjoyable if you like an anime that's going to make you laugh, make fun of the fact that anime does a lot of goofy stuff. And then you also get something out of it. It really makes you get a little bit of the feels.
It is really amazing how, animation does do those kind of does those kind of deals where they, make you feel a certain way, whether, you feel like you can laugh or you feel like you can cry. It's always just one of those things where it's very strong in the emotion realm. And that is exactly, I think, what I'm getting from this series here. It's one of those series that, hey, it is kind of something that you've seen before, but they're adding different aspects of it. They're adding different details. They're adding different lessons to it. Makes it a lot more of an enjoyable show.
Oh, yeah. This is definitely one of the funniest, really entertaining anime that I've ever watched. It's great. It's 26 episodes. Not that bad. They're like 20 minutes an episode, and you just cruise through it. And then if you're a crazy person like me, you'll then go and read the manga, because obviously a lot of animes in that time, we all know if we're anime fans, never like complete the series for you. It's almost like they leave you with a cliffhanger and you're like, well, what happens? Like, I want to know what happens to these people. So they kind of let you or lead you to trying to explore the manga, which I also think is a really, a good thing to do, like support the kind of medium that brought this to life, which is the comic book art, also known as manga in Japan. I would love to see this get redone. It's very old as of now, and like I said, when it is a square screen versus the wide screen, you're kind of like, uh-oh, maybe this needs to be redone. And it is not unheard of, because one thing on my list is getting a reboot currently, but I would love to see this rebooted and completed. And I think that's a new thing that anime has started doing, is they're doing series that are going to be those 200, 300 episodes, so that they have the whole series for you. I know a lot of shonen, which are male-driven action anime, do that already. Like, you'll see, like, 500 episodes, and you're like, I don't want to even get started with this, but I feel like there's more than 26 episodes in a lot of this series needed to be made.
Nice. Fair enough. That's a really good start to the list. So now I'm going to get into the nitty-gritty of, things that should be rebooted. Something that, has been really good, something that people have actually enjoyed. First one that came to mind, actually, was one that I remember very fondly, even though I've only seen like a couple episodes, and that was the TV series I Dream of Jeannie. Because in all honesty, let's face it, anything is better than the live-action Aladdin. We've already went through that rant. So, I Dream of Jeannie is a story basically about this pilot who basically gets stranded on an island, and he finds this magic bottle. What's in the bottle? You guessed it. It's a genie. She basically gives him the 3 wishes, and which the third one, they actually go right into him basically saying, the third one, I wish that you were free. It was like, wow, that was like really fast. So like the series is over, right? Wrong. She still has her powers, and they get into all this kind of mischief and a little bit of mayhem, these crazy, wild, and wacky adventures. Just absolutely a lot of fun. And it's still one of those series that still holds up to this very day. They go through very different aspects. Like, apparently genies are not very photogenic. When they get their pictures taken, they're basically invisible. When they're on video cameras, they're invisible. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, never really thought of it like that. Never really thought of these kind of deals. They introduce so many of these interesting ideas. They go into these different scenarios, like where the pilot and his best friend, they switch bodies for a day, so they're basically trying to talk as each other and basically trying to help each other out. It's just an absolutely fantastic deal. And I think that it's one of those things that deserves a reboot. Honestly, would they maybe want to switch the, genie out for a male cohort? Maybe. I mean, it would be kind of interesting to see it going from a female's perspective, honestly. And it might be one of those things where it's like, well, we never really see too many females in the main roles. Why not? Yeah, why not switch it up? Or honestly, maybe they want to do like a girl, like a girl genie and a girl do it. And guys, don't get any ideas. I know what I said. Don't. So I just think it would be one of those series that definitely deserves a reboot, maybe a refreshing deal. It's just a simple deal. It's a person, they have a genie, they go on these wild adventures, they do these situations. It's just one of those things where I think it would be really cool to have that kind of as a reboot.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a super fan of that show, but I also just didn't, it was kind of way before my time of wanting to watch, real life people. But I do know they didn't they do a I Dream of Jeannie movie with Nicole Kidman, and she was, moving her nose and stuff, or is that Bewitched?
No, that was Bewitched.
Okay, shows how much I know about that. But yeah, I think that could be definitely an option. I wouldn't see why not. I know that had a really good following, and it could be really fun to have the magic happen with CGI now instead of having to pause and then redo something.
Yeah. Like you said, it would just be very interesting to see these kind of new aspects that now we can bring to it. And honestly, you do see a couple of the wonky deals where it's like, oh, okay, you see where the wires go for this person, you see where this happens with this. Yeah, we could do a better job of that. We could actually do a better job of that. We could actually create something interesting and just, bring in the fact that, we have all these different, items compared to what we had in the past. Maybe, the person wishes for a drone. Maybe they want to be able to deal with, being ahead of a corporation like Apple, something like that. Just have fun with it. That's the main thing about it, is that so many people are so concentrated on, oh, this needs to have a lesson, this needs to have a strong representation. It's no, there's TV series that just had fun with it. There's not really too much of a lesson really put out there. There's some that are subplot messages, but nothing there that was just oh, well, the message you had to learn from this was blah, 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 blah. No, it's not like the, what was it called? The Wheel of Morality from Animaniacs, where they just put that at the end of the show, and it's oh, this is the lesson that we quote-unquote learned today. It's nothing like that, although it would be kind of funny to see that kind of make an appearance during that kind of series. That would be kind of funny, but you know what? Animaniacs is coming back in a couple years, so where are you going to get that? So let's leave that be.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So, alright, VictoriBelle. the anime representative, what's next on your list?
Yeah, so I have a really fun one that's next, that I think people don't necessarily talk much about. I think that they talk about a lot of anime that are a little more popular on, like, Netflix and stuff, instead of just, like, popular anime in general. So this one's actually more of a thriller horror brand, and those animes are always a little dark. I would not recommend for your kids to be around if you're watching this. It's one of those, rated R anime, or on not so much. But this, yes. So this is called Psycho-Pass. So if you've ever heard of the movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise, this is an anime that is very similar to that. They were obviously created by two totally different people. I don't know if they were created around the same time. Minority Report might have been a little before Psycho-Pass, but it has the same idea that this is a civilization that is ruled by the psychology of people are inherently born with criminal intentions, or they're inherently not born with criminal intentions. So a Psycho-Pass is your number that tells you if you are going to be a criminal or not. So people in this society are born with a high Psycho-Pass and put to prison as a child, like taken to prison because they might kill someone. So it's all about a society that's trying to prevent crime by having everyone continuously monitored by the man. So it's a great, sci-fi world already that you're like, whoa, like, I could see this, like, maybe happening a little bit. Like, wow, like, they're able to, like, track everybody. So whenever there is somebody who is, like, heightened in anxiety or anything, or frightened and stuff, to the point where they might break and, like, hurt someone, they get, like, a warning, and the police go and try to find them and either try to arrest them or kill them before a big event happens. So we follow this young woman who has one of the cleanest psychopasses, meaning, like, she's a very, very good person, and she gets partnered up with, I forget the exact term they use, but it's kind of like a dog, they say, which is somebody who was a police officer and then lost all control of his Psycho-Pass. So his Psycho-Pass, like, turned to criminal levels, so he's never allowed out unless he has another cop with him. So she has a partner who is technically, like, a criminal with her, and they try to solve these crimes, and basically you go through, like, seeing the different things that set people off and make them crazy, and there's a lot of murder and gore in this anime. It really messes with your mind to where you're like, oh my gosh, like it tells you the story of how these, like, the dogs turned into dogs, and it's like they had to kill someone or they saw something so horrific that they lost faith in humanity. So now they're imprisoned and fighting to try to imprison more people like themselves. And one of the, like, dogs, like, was one of those kids that he's like, I've been in here since birth, so I've never even got a chance to be a real person. And, like, it's really interesting. It really goes through, like, the arcs of the characters very well, very gory, but also really, like, deep and makes you think. And then there's always this underlining villain that you see really kind of manipulating the system. And apparently he has a very clear Psycho-Pass that the system can't detect. So he's committing all these crazy, graphic, awful crimes, and he's getting away with it. So it's obviously a flawed system in some way. And you got to see, like, the rest of it to where, like, what happens and how they either procure or lose the villain in the end. There is a sequel. I didn't really enjoy it as much. I would say season 1 is the best, because it's really the characters I liked better. But Psycho-Pass in general is a really fun, interesting adult animation that just makes you think, and I think that's what you want in a series.
Honestly, I really got nothing to add on to that because that's a lot of heavy stuff to take in. Holy cow.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those that you watch and you're like, whoa, that just happened. Like, did that person's head just explode in animation? Yes, it did.
Yeah, I literally got nothing to add on to that, so, except go watch the series because it sounds freaking awesome.
Yeah, I believe it's on Hulu. I know it's not on Netflix, but it should be on Hulu and Amazon Prime. So if you guys have any of that, she's talking now. My Alexa is talking to me about Prime. Amazon, stop. She's not listening. No!
I'm sorry,
the
did you...
computers are taking over the world. It's happening.
It just goes to like the cryptid, like, deal. Oh my gosh. Alexa, stop. Shut up.
Amazon.
Shut up.
She's not listening.
Okay. Wow.
She's not even in this room, so that's kind of creepy.
That is actually pretty creepy.
The one in this room is named Alexa.
Oh. Alright.
So you gotta be careful.
Okay.
I never say that name.
So never say the name of Alexa!
I don't think she can comprehend you saying it. That's weird.
Fair enough. Well, that's
that would be really funny if she could.
She doesn't speak man. She speaks woman. Sorry, I had to make the cheesy joke. I'm sorry, folks, but all right. yeah, I know. I'm looking for the what is it? It's like the episode from SpongeBob where they're basically trying to hide Mr. Krabs' like first $1 bill or something like that because it got painted over and SpongeBob is just hanging there on the wall. He just, as Mr. Krab goes, "What are you doing?" And SpongeBob's like, "Well, just hanging around." And then Patrick just goes, "Boo!" I'm waiting for that to happen. It's just somebody going, "Boo!" Thumbs down. But all right, so for this next one that I have on my list, it's kind of an interesting one. Maybe this is one that might rub people the wrong way, considering the fact that we did, unfortunately, lose the quote-unquote mascot of the show. But at the same time, this was one of those shows that I thoroughly enjoyed. I thought it was very educational. I thought it was very well done. I would love to see them do a revamp and a reboot of the series known as Zaboomafoo. And now, this is where it's going to get a little bit interesting. So, the series itself, I should say, is talking about Chris and Martin Kraft. They are two brothers that befriend this lemur, and they go to this place called Animal Junction, where they are literally teaching kids about certain animals. Like, one week they could have an elephant and a porcupine, and another week they could have just these little tiny baby animals, like a baby like cheetah, or a baby lion, or a baby kitten, something like that. And they kind of tie in these series together, but they also do a really interesting job with claymation. Yes, they have a claymation in educational deal. It's actually kind of cool, where basically Zaboomafoo talks about these stories that he was doing in a place called Zabuland, and it's all claymation. It's kind of like Gumby, except not as creepy as like the first iteration of it. Trust me, you do not want to see that. That's just god-awful scary. So literally, this is, again, one of those great educational films that I think would do really well on like Animal Planet. Honestly, it is going to be hard to do because of the fact that maybe the Kraft brothers are too busy doing other projects. I know they have their own animated series that they've been doing for a while now. But honestly, the solution I would have for that is maybe for the first season, just have, certain people coming onto the show, and maybe they introduce, back Zaboomafoo, and maybe they introduce a new character on here. Basically, you're basically saying, okay, we're going to have each episode have, a certain animal, but we're also going to have like a different set of co-hosts, whether it's adults, whether it's teenagers, people who would actually, really thrive in the animal kingdom, and that would basically say, hey, we have all this knowledge about this animal and this animal and this animal, just having that kind of deal. Maybe like the season 1 finale is the fans, hey, you get to vote on who should be the permanent, the permanent host for this series. It was just a really fun TV series. I hate the fact that it died off, and I will say this, thoughts and prayers go out to the families as well as the providers for the lemur that was the mascot for this, because unfortunately he did in fact pass away. I think it was this year, if I'm not mistaken. And I also know that we suffered another loss in the animal kingdom that we didn't get a chance to even mention that when it happened, but it was, I believe, Oreo the raccoon, who basically was the inspiration for Rocket Raccoon. Unfortunately passed away this year too, and it is kind of one of those things where it really sucks to see animals passing on, because we do treat them like people in a lot of ways. Animals are more than just, critters that just, wander around the earth. No, they're a part of this world, and we get along with them very well. So, I don't know. I just think that it'd be kind of cool to see Zaboomafoo, get a reboot. Maybe it doesn't have to be Zaboomafoo. Maybe it could be something different, but it's just one of those TV series that's educational, it's fun, it's something different that the families definitely do enjoy, and it is kind of one of those series that's interesting that it doesn't just, hit kids, it also gets the adults, attention as well, and that's probably one of the reasons why it was on PBS for so long. So, it'd be cool to have that. I say reboot it, I say try something different, maybe bring some new co-hosts into this. Just, again, another one of the shows where it's just have fun with it.
Yeah, no, I think that, I think it definitely fun. I remember a few, the, puppets and all the different things they did. It was cute. I mean, if we need another nature animal kid show, why not? I do feel like they have a lot of those, but I don't really know. I don't watch, the nature kid shows. I just be informed if they have stuff like that. But yeah, I enjoy a good nature show. But I watch Lonely Planet or Earth and stuff like that. They're the big docu-series now, which I love. So if I learn about animals, I learn it through documentaries now. Right.
Like I said, I think it's just kind of like achieving balance. Like, I know that with, I think, National Geographic, with Animal Planet, they always have those series where, they do have some that hit with kids, but there is a lot more that are just, adult-oriented, like World's Deadliest. They definitely do have those series that are probably more aimed towards adults, and probably kids are going to be like, I don't want to be in the water anymore. I don't want to see a snake again. It's like, just find that balance where, kids can actually learn things more than fear things when it comes to the animal kingdom. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I would almost say that why not make it like a Netflix series or something, because I think that's more of where parents are going to feed their kids information. Like Netflix and all these different streaming series have kids section and kids safety so that kids can't go on the crazy weird stuff. They just go on the stuff that's, appropriate for them. And if you don't want commercials because commercials bore your kids, then yeah, Netflix is the way to go. So having I know they're rebooting Blue's Clues, I heard. So having a fun show like that be on a streaming service versus the real TV that anything can pop up on is I think a safe place for parents, and they would like that a lot.
No, definitely full-heartedly agree with that. All right, Victory Bell, anime Victory Bell, however we want to use it. What is your next list of animated series that people should definitely be on the lookout for?
Yeah, so this is a classic of mine, one of my all-time favorites. The top 3 is obviously going to be some of my all-time favorites of all time. And I decided to choose Trigun. So Trigun is kind of a show-in, kind of like a slice of life. kind of a good gunslinging anime. But it's basically, Trigun is about a very, like, westerny type of world. So it's not our world. So it's about the people from Earth go to try to find a new planet to live on because we depleted all of Earth's resources. And we're using these plants, they're called, to, you know, provide electricity and other services. So we had spaceships sent out trying to find really cool areas, and they happened to crash down on this Earth that is kind of like a desert wasteland for the most part. So not really what we wanted, but they have plants and they try to fix the plants, and it's almost like these big technological advances that Earth made were reverted back to the wild, wild west because these people that are on the planet now don't have the resources and the knowledge to create all these things again. So they really rely on this old technology and hope that it exists and thrives. Otherwise, their town dies and, like, basically goes to ashes. And we follow our little hero, which is, his name is Vash the Stampede. He's the $30 billion man who is wanted for that many monies, because he has been told to, or been known to, explode a plant on accident and wipe out a whole city. So people think, like, this guy is, like, the most wanted criminal of all this Earth, and we're like, oh, we're going to go find him, and we're going to capture him and get all this money, because it's all about money in the wild, wild west, you know? And you find out that this Vash the Stampede is this, like, really quirky, nice, funny dude who just is kind of, like, seems to be in the wrong place at the right time all the time. And he doesn't seem skilled in any way. Like, he's tripping, falling, but he trips and, like, suddenly, like, takes out a guy with a donut. You're like, what? How did that happen? And what's really interesting about Vash the Stampede, which we heard he, like, destroyed a whole town, but this guy doesn't want to kill anyone. Like, he doesn't believe in killing, hurting. He's an amazing gunman who can control, like, his bullets so well that he never kills anyone. He injures them, or he's able to shoot their gun out of their hand. And in a world that is filled with, you know, it's, like I said, the Wild Wild West, so people shoot to kill, shoot for water, shoot for money, shoot for anything. He's trying to be a voice of the people that is, like, he always says, love and peace, guys, love and peace, and stuff like that. But you follow him around as, like, these sub-characters who are reporters and insurance brokers who follow him around because he is a big insurance, like, clause. Like, if he goes to an area, he might explode the town. So you follow him around with these two, like, side funny characters who are two females that are like, okay, he can't do anything today, we got this, and, you know, Vash is probably going to go off and do something awful again, on accident. But it's a really fun series. You get to meet a lot of characters that are very influential, and then you get, you know, that the story that I always love is that there's a, you know, an underlining story of why is this man who's worth $30 billion double dollars, like, his head is worth that. Like, why does he not hurt anyone? Why doesn't he even kill people? Like, why does he try so hard to save every life? And if somebody dies, which he's been in a situation where you see somebody actually get hurt and die, like, this character who's so funny, quirky, and cool, in quotes, not really that cool, but he tries, you start crying and break down, and you're like, what? This is supposed to be a crazy criminal. Why is this man crying? Like, what is going on? So you really get to see a different side of an anime character that is known as, like, for his badassery, but he actually doesn't want to be known for it, and he's really trying to do the right thing and be a good person, but the whole, you know, underlining theme is are you able to be a good person in an evil world? And it really shows you some dark things that you can see had happened in our time and in our world, and that could maybe possibly happen again. So it's a really good series. It's pretty old. One of my favorite voice actors, though, does Vash. It's Johnny Young Bosch. He's amazing. And it just, this anime literally was the anime that made me fall in love with anime. So I would recommend it. I believe it is on Hulu and Amazon Prime. I know it's not on Netflix, but it's amazing, and I would definitely recommend it.
It is kind of interesting to hear how you described, that character where, he is basically trying to be a badass. He is basically trying to be this character of just, I guess you could say, some nobility, but also having a crazy side to him, but also having another layer where he is saying, I don't want to be this. I want to be able to, help people, but it seems like the only way that they could, he can get his point across is to be this different character. So it is very interesting to hear that, because a lot of times you'll definitely hear, like, this person's automatically badass. He's the badass. This person's automatically villain. He's the villain. Stuff like that, where it's like, no, we're actually giving this character human qualities and stuff that, really does make him a relatable character, where some people probably have dealt with that situation where they have to act like somebody else, but in reality they're just like, I don't want to be this person. I really don't. So it sounds like a really awesome series from what you gather, and it does kind of stem from mainly that character.
Oh, yeah, he's hilarious, too, just because it's just unfortunate. So the reason bad things happen to him is because he's followed around with this 30 or 80 billion, however many billions of double dollars that is on his head, and people, know him for that. So that's why he has that hanging over his head, is that something bad did happen in his past, and maybe he couldn't control it, maybe he could, but he's followed around with this giant, bounty hunter debt that people in this time and world want that money. They want that money, and he's dead or alive, and so big bad things happen and follow him around because people want money that bad.
Wow, that's heavy.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and that's the fun part about anime. You're getting into a cartoon crazy world where people can draw and do what they want, but they also try to make it a learning situation. And Trigun was featured on Adult Swim, so it is one of those that I wouldn't recommend for kids. It's not awful, it doesn't do anything that Psycho-Pass does, but yeah, it's more for adults, and I think anybody would like this series. I know guys and girls both like it, but yeah, check it out. Bash Stampede, one of my favorite all-time characters.
Alright, so we are reaching down to the nitty-gritty. We are reaching down to our final two on each side. So, obviously, my co-host did mention the fact that Nickelodeon is going to be doing a reboot for Blue's Clues, which, honestly, I'm kind of like, why? Because after Steve left, it kind of lost its mojo, and I'm not going to lie, I'm not very fond of this new host. I don't know why. It's just one of those things where it's like, maybe it's just me just saying, leave this series alone. It was great the way it was. We don't need to have these situations. But honestly, guys, I'm going to kind of raise the stakes on this one with another reboot that I would love to see happen, but it was also a series that I kind of liked, but also maybe had a little bit of fear for when I was a kid. And that was the TV series on Disney known as Bear in the Big Blue House. So obviously this feels a lot like it's a Muppets deal. You definitely do see puppets. You see this one person dressed up in this huge bear-like costume. And it's really crazy because after they do the theme song, one of the first things that they do is they actually have the bear just kind of sniff around, and he just sniffs up to the camera as to be like, oh, what is this unique smell that I'm smelling? It's just one of those things where it's like, okay, this is kind of creepy, but at the same time, it's a fake bear. It's not a real bear. It's fine. I think even as an adult, I still get goosebumps from that, because it's like, this is a little bit bizarre, but at the same time, I get why he's doing this. But it's just a really fun series. Once you get past that opener deal, it's a fun series where they just have a lot of great lessons throughout the entire series. They even have like great holiday specials, a lot of memorable characters. They have like otter twins. They have a mouse in there, a little baby bear involved. And I want to say a lemur that literally has a language of his own, I would definitely say. And it all ends with the bear going out and talking to a moon about the day. And it's kind of really nice to have those kind of deals where it's like, hey, we learned about this today, we learned about this today. And they end it with a nice little song that just is very hard to overlook and to honestly forget. Whether it's the first song or the last song, you at least remember the series for something very spectacular. And one of the reasons why the series unfortunately only lasted for so long was because the actress who voiced the moon at the end unfortunately passed away, I would actually say about a decade ago. And one of the things that they mentioned was that after a couple years after she passed, it felt like the crew was not into it anymore. They were not having their hearts in it anymore. So it does kind of tell you the kind of connection that these people have on and off the screen. So maybe it is one of those situations where maybe I'm asking for a little too much, but I just think it'd be a nice little thing to have where it's not just all about the animation, it's not just all about CGI, where it's just one of those things where it's like, hey, this is kind of the classic deal of people. I think they even tried to make it into a Broadway show at one point, and it would be kind of cool to either see it turn into a Broadway show, if not revamp it again. Like I said, just have the classic feel of, people going out in costumes, playing with puppets. Let them have that kind of fun. Have fun with the series, and again, show the kids, these really cool lessons, and also introduce these characters again. I just think it'd be really cool to have that. Might be asking for a little too much, but it's one of those things where it's like, I kind of still want to see this, though.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm like, I don't know if I really watched that show. You're saying kids shows, man. I can't really recommend them. Like, if you're 12 or under, possibly go watch this.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Just as I don't watch the puppet shows anymore and stuff like that, so I wouldn't know if they're on still. Yeah. I don't know. Sorry,
dude. No, it's good. It's good. And trust me, I'm the same way when you mention anime. I'm like, oh, there's going to be so many of these. I am not going to have a single idea what they are. But like I said, it's the way you're describing them. It's like, okay, this is kind of interesting. This is kind of either relatable or it's just something that would probably pique the interest. And that's one of the things I enjoy about bringing up these underrated, underappreciated TV series, because so many people probably don't even know about these. But parents, honestly, I would definitely recommend, Bear in the Big Blue House for your kids, because like I said, it's a fun, innocent TV series for your kids. It's got some really great musical numbers in there too. So yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, this is like classic Disney at its finest, in my opinion. And there's one more show I will definitely talk about when it comes to Disney. That is my final one. But before we get into that, you do have another series on your list that you have to mention, so by all means, the floor is yours.
Yeah, and just outright, I just want to ask you a question about, so are you recommending these shows just for kids again, or were you thinking, do they have, messages that adults would, can, grasp onto, or are you literally just remembering your childhood and being like, I want the children of this generation to have this?
I think it's kind of a combination of all three of those points. I never really thought of it like that, but it is one of those things where you definitely, when I looked at a lot of these series, I just remember them so fondly from childhood. I remember watching these shows and being super excited to see in them, and having the laughs, having the joys of that. I think parents could definitely remind these kids that, hey, we have these shows, and this was stuff that we grew up with. And honestly, it's not a bad thing to bring out the classics. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are still reading Dr. Seuss books nowadays, because they obviously know that kids need to be educated, but they also want to have that creativity to it. And honestly, like I said, it's a walk down memory lane. It's a lot of fun to talk about these things. It's just awesome. So to answer your question, it is basically all three. But also there's a point where it's like some of these I want to see get rebooted, so that way kids can enjoy these, honestly, in my opinion, successful series that we had back in the day that just were taken away too soon.
Gotcha. Okay. Because as someone who's obviously like I don't want to. One, I'm not saying like, oh, it's a kiddie show, don't watch it, because I'm obviously talking about anime and animation, which a lot of people think are very childish type of thing as well. But
you people are wrong.
well, yeah, that's actually a big thing that like sometimes parents allow their kids to watch this because it's animation, and I'm like, ooh, like one of my uncles let his kids watch, like I think it was Naruto or something, and he's like, oh, like they watched it with like the subtitles on, so they're reading too, and I was like, have you read the subtitles? And he's like, no. I'm like, you might want to read the subtitles. And it's literally like Naruto, you little beep, like beep, like F you, beep beep. And I was like, oh, like, and he's like, it wasn't saying that in English. And I'm like, that's because they tried to make it a kids show in English. The subtitles are much different. Japan don't mess around.
This is true, and I think that's one of those things where that's where a lot of our older minds kind of go at, is that we grew up with animation. We grew up with with the Disney movies. We grew up with the American Tail movies. We grew up with a lot of these animated movies that we think like, okay, animation. Our brains are wired to those nice kid-friendly shows, without realizing that now animation has just evolved into something that's more relatable and more for everybody, not just for kids. And I think that that's probably one of the things that a lot of people are always misunderstanding, is that, it's an anime. Is it for kids? Well, you might want to do your research before subjecting your kids to it. Is it anime? Is it one of those things you would want your kids to be watching? Is it one of those things that you would be okay with your kids watching all by themselves? Sometimes you would say, yeah, I'd be okay with that, but then there's other times where like, maybe this is a little too much for my kids to handle, at least for right now. So I think that this is kind of like a PSA right now. It's like, parents, definitely check out what your kids are watching, especially with anime, because a lot of times, more times than 9 times out of 10, it is probably for adults more than for kids. Unless you know it's for kids, you gotta do your research.
Yeah, Pokemon is usually pretty good, guys. So like, you're safe with like the Pokemon and stuff like that. But yeah.
But Tori, there's that one scene where Ash Ketchum dies, but then he gets revived by tears.
I think a lot of kids shows things die, but you don't really always see it. Like you're like, oh, like. I mean, I watched Tarzan. I saw the guy hanging by his neck. I was like, that's pretty valid.
That is true.
Like, dang, Tarzan, you went there. But yeah, no, I just wanted to ask you because, like, in general, the things I'm stating right now could be considered a kid's show as well. But I'm trying to, like, get that point across that I don't feel it's a kid's show and it shouldn't be a kid's show. But, like, because it has these underlining themes, and it's quite violent or graphic in some way. But your stuff have good themes for kids that parents would appreciate, and that's why you want it back.
Basically, yeah. And that's, I think, what I tried to... That's what I guess I should have done a better job of clarifying at the beginning of the show. That, yes, I'm bringing up TV series that are, more family-oriented or more kids-oriented, and Tori is definitely bringing up more of the... I don't know if I would say hardcore, but definitely one of those things where it is maybe more prone to adults and teenagers later years.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted,
but it's like, the best of both worlds.
We're saying we want them to be brought back, but I'm like, would you really watch like those shows now? Like, I mean, maybe you would if you like. I don't get stimulated by kids shows. Like, they legit bore the crap out of me. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, turn it off. Like, I appreciate Disney because they entertain kids and they entertain me. But, like, Blue's Clues, like, if I was watching Blue's Clues, I might just, like, go, like, die. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's no enjoyment for me.
Fair enough. And people have a different acquired taste. And with that being said, your acquired taste is anime. Again, the floor is yours. What is your I think you're at your number 4 for anime.
Right. My number 2 choice.
Or number 2, yeah.
I go backwards. I always start with the
I do keep forgetting important. That, yeah. So, what is your number 2?
Yes, my number 2. This is probably the only series that I have, like, fully completed, and it fully completed, basically. So, I don't know, that's kind of a lie, but whatever. Okay, this is Bleach. I love Bleach. It's a shonen, so shonen is a very action boy-driven type of genre in anime. And it's very hard to explain because Bleach is so crazy, and especially just saying Bleach, people are like the cleaner? And as a child, when you're looking up Bleach to try to watch it, you do just get a lot of Clorox commercials. But no, Bleach is basically about Ichigo Kurosaki, who is a 15-year-old high school student who can see ghosts. And this ends up allowing him to also see people who are fighting the ghosts within the city called Soul Reapers. And he gets entangled with a female Soul Reaper who gives him her power for a second because his family is about to be killed by, it's called a hollow. I know there's a lot of terms I'm throwing around that people don't get, but basically a very haunted, evil spirit is attempting to kill his family, and they found him because he has high spiritual pressure because he can see ghosts. So this creature comes and tries to murder and kill his 2 sisters and his father, and basically this Soul Reaper is like, I'm going to grant you my power so you save your sisters. And he's like, thank you, and he gets the powers, and he accidentally sucks all of her power out of her and gains immense power for himself. And we kind of like follow around these 2 characters where he's going to do her job for her now because she doesn't have her powers, and what she did is a crime within the undead, like the dead world. Like, you're not allowed to interact with the humans. Like, whoa. And she did it to save his family's life, but now you kind of get to see the aftermath of now he has the powers and he's trying to help protect her and all this fun stuff. And it goes from, a 50 episode season all the way up to, I believe it almost hit 300 episodes. So this is one of those massive animes that you're like, holy crap, I don't know if I want to get involved with this. But it's also so fun and so good. There's a lot of fillers, which in anime, a filler is an episode that they make because the animation is going faster than the manga. And the manga writer and artist can't keep up with the anime. So they make series that don't really go with the story arc, but it's still kind of fun to watch, and you get to see a different vibe of the characters. But this basically goes into just society as a whole, and it's a lot of really cool sword play and stuff like that. That's kind of what Soul Reapers use, like katanas, which is the Japanese style sword, and each sword has its own specific power, and you get to see people fight, and people die, and a lot of blood, and with a lot of underlining, themes again, because I love that, and that's the only reason why I would watch an anime, is if it had a really good story arc. And like Ichigo means in Japanese, one who protects, and so he feels as though he needs to protect all of his friends and family, and he was unable to protect his mom. His mom died when he was really little, got murdered, and you find out, she actually got murdered from a hollow because he was attracting it to them on accident. So really kind of deep themes within it, but Bleach ends up being one of those series that you just can't put away, can't put down, because you just follow it, and it goes from, the human world into the Soul Society, into the Hollow Society, and you just follow it, and it's just so great. Like, they tried so hard to make it a great storyline, and there's people that you think are good guys that end up being bad guys, and betrayal and killing, and your favorite characters might die, and you're like, oh man, like, what's going to happen? And it's one of those really fun ones, and I have to say, anyone else that have watched Bleach would tell you it's awesome, and they recommend it. It's one of the top 3 probably main shonen anime, up there with Naruto and One Piece. And so yeah, I had to say it. It's one of those that I completed fully. All of the animation is done. The manga still went on a little longer, and ended up being exactly what I wanted it to end like, but I wouldn't mind Bleach finishing all the animation. So I don't know, I think they are like in the works to complete the series in animation, but if they don't, it'll be kind of sad, but I think they should. I think people would watch it, and Bleach fans would appreciate it. So if you want to watch Bleach, I do believe it was on Netflix for a while. It might still be on Netflix. They do have a live action that is very different. I didn't necessarily like it that much, but it wasn't bad. It just wasn't Bleach. So I was like, let's skip that. That's not good. But if you have Hulu, I do believe it's on Hulu. I don't know about Amazon Prime, or you could just, hit me up and I'll let you borrow all my box sets.
All I have to really say is that Hulu is, not Hulu, Bleach is very popular. I need to start watching an episode, and honestly, guys, if you want to need another reason why you should watch Bleach, go check out my co-host's very awesome cosplay of Ichigo, because it is not only spectacular, but she still looks hot in that, so it's kind of one of those things. I'm sorry, I had to.
No, that's one of them, that I actually had to cosplay, because Ichigo is like one of the best characters ever. I love him. He's OP as F, but aka overpowered as F. But yeah, like, that's why I decided to crossplay him, because he's awesome.
Yeah, I think that was also the first picture you gave me when we were first started out doing the podcast. I think that was the one that I was just like, okay, what do I want? Okay, I'll pick this one with Ichigo. And I think that was the one that you personally signed, and I still have it. It's awesome. It's still one of those things where it puts a smile on my face. It's like, I have an awesome co-host. What can I say?
Aw, thank you.
All right, so final one for me. I know I've talked about this series, but you know something? It's still one of those series that I absolutely love. It's great. It's about a boy named Phil and his family on vacation from the 22nd century. Something on their time machine had blown, and they end up right here in our time zone. Yes, it's Phil of the future, ladies and gentlemen. Legitimately one of my favorite series growing up. It only has 2 seasons. It's one of those things where it is just a huge injustice that it only had 2 seasons, and it ended on a bittersweet note of them seemingly going back to the future, but then they realized, oh, we forgot something, we better go back. It's just one of those things where it's like, they got so much good stuff in here. They incorporate the fact that they're from the future. They incorporate, whether it's technology or whether they had an episode where they had this disease where their skin turns green, and what their personalities were, they become the opposite. So if you're like sweet and caring, you become this very hard and very angry, obnoxious person. If you're like very bitter and angry, you're like the sweetest person. I just remember one line where the dad basically says to his daughter Pim, is like oh, okay, this is all going on, but you better brace yourself. You're turning into what every father's daughter would be dreamed out to be, and she just goes, "I love you, Daddy." I'm just like, this thing is affecting. Oh my God, this is pretty awesome. Just to see them have that character switch, it was awesome. And plus, Keeley and Phil, the chemistry was great. Of course, at the very last episode, we basically see them become a couple, but then it's like, oh, well, we got to go back to the future. Great. Just no. I wanted so much more. I would love for them to make a movie just to kind of wrap it up, just to fill up these holes. But it's just, I know about a year ago they actually did like a mini reunion with the three main characters. They did an Instagram post where they're talking like, hey, this little Fill the Future reunion was just what I needed. And the internet exploded. They're just like, oh my God, this is awesome. Are we getting a reboot? Are we getting a movie? Are we getting this? Are we getting blah, 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 blah? And the actors have said, we're interested. We're totally down for this. I say just do a movie and call it good. If they want to reboot the series, I'm okay with that too. If they want to just, have different actors play it, it would be kind of interesting. Maybe they can incorporate, the characters from the original series and put in there. At least then we could have some kind of finish to it. It's just so good. And I know, we just went through the whole time travel deal with the Endgame. Don't do it now. Wait maybe a year or two, reboot it, call it good. Because, let's face it, the whole time travel deal with Endgame was kind of wonky. It was kind of out there, but at the same time, it was awesome. Endgame is awesome. Still one of my favorite movies of the year. It's just one of those things where it's like, I think we're done with time travel for the time being. It's like, yeah, just give it a year, maybe two, then do the reboots.
I was trying to look up why it even got canceled. Was it just not popular enough?
It's weird because, I think it was popular enough. I mean, people were definitely still going crazy for it. Maybe it was just one of those situations where they just thought, okay, well, we're not. Maybe it did, tank in ratings or something like that. Who knows? There's no explanation as to why this series was canceled. I've looked up everywhere that I could, and I'm thinking, okay, there's no explanation. This just gives me more reason to want this to continue, because you don't have a logical explanation for it to be canceled. Bring it back. It would be kind of awesome.
No, I definitely remember Phil of the Future. It was cute and it was funny, and like Phil, was this small little like cutie guy. But yeah, I think that it definitely had something going for it. I don't know if I could see a movie doing that well, though. Like, maybe if they tried to make it more of, like, an our generation thing, the people who first liked it, because it could not be as, like, comedy and sitcom-y as it was, because I just don't think that could be a movie. But yeah, apparently they had a reunion in 2018, and they definitely all look relatively similar. Yeah, I don't know. I liked it. I definitely liked it. I think it was a great series of its time. I just don't know if it could come back.
It's just a question mark right now at this point. I want to come back. There's a lot of other people that I'd like for it to come back, but we'll see. I mean, they're doing another Kim Possible deal, so at this point it's like, well, where's our Phil of the Future? Some people are probably saying, where's our That's So Raven? Where's the Lizzie McGuire deal? And it's one of those things where I'll say, okay, hold on.
I'm pretty sure Lizzie McGuire is coming back.
Oh, that's right, it is coming back. You're right. I do remember that.
But yeah, which I'm like, I don't know how they're going to do that. I'm very intrigued, because as somebody who was just like, meh, about Lizzie McGuire, I'm like, are we going to get a grown-ass woman, like, talking to her cartoon self? Like, what? Like, I felt like the cartoon was supposed to be, like, her inner diary or something, but, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I have no idea. And I'm not, like, opposed to any of this. I just don't see it. I feel like if it's a live-action thing already, and it had its time, I'm trying to think of something that got brought back that did, like, excellent. can't think of anything.
Yeah. Well, maybe
you know what I mean? Like TV series wise. TV series wise.
Yeah. Well, let's actually save that for maybe another time, because we still have to get to your number one anime that you have on your list. I'm kind of excited, so slight little drum roll, silent drum roll. So what is your number one? Okay, there you go. There we go. We got a drum roll. So, Victory Bell, what is your number one TV series?
My number one anime of all time is Fruits Basket. I freaking love that show. I get just the feels and all the bestness ever from Fruits Basket. And they made my whole year when they announced in 2019 they were bringing it back. And I've been watching it, and I don't usually, watch weekly anime. I never do that. I wait for it all to come out, and then I, just binge, because I can't wait for things. But I've been consistently, I purchased Crunchyroll again, just so I could follow Fruits Basket all over. They announced, I believe it was in February or something, they were like, hey, it's confirmed, we're bringing Fruits Basket back, and we are going to go all the way to the end of the manga. And I was like, oh, they're making my life. Because you could watch Fruits Basket, I believe the 2004 it came out. I could be wrong. But that's when I was first introduced to it. The Funimation series came out, I believe, 2006, something like that. Very adorable, cute, super feely. It's really a slice of life type of anime. So it's about a young heroine named Toru who has recently lost her place to live and lost her mom and has just lost a lot. So she seems like she would not be a character that you would be like, that's a happy character. But she is a very happy character. She's like, oh, good morning, as she awakens out of a tent, in the woods. She's like, I'm going to make this a great day. So, very positive, very good attitude. And she comes across, a house that has, little zodiac, little trinkets outside. And she, is looking at it, and she's like, oh, I love the zodiac, the Chinese zodiac, has 12 animals that represent the 12 months, and every one of us has a zodiac, animal that is connected to us, and that's kind of the astrology of the Chinese, they're like, oh, we connect the months and the years, and we celebrate. Chinese New Year always celebrates a new animal coming into power. I myself am a ram. I am a golden goat, what I researched more, which was hilarious to me. But yeah, so she gets to see all the the Zodiac characters, and she's like, oh, as I expected, you didn't include the cat. And basically there's an old folk tale saying that, which a lot of people wonder, why isn't there a cat in the Zodiac? There's a dog and a mouse, where's the cat? And so this anime is all about this cat being tricked out of the Zodiac and basically shunned from the happiness of the animals. And so she was like, oh, of course, you don't have a cat. That's sad. And the guy comes out who, made him, and he's like, oh, that's weird that a high school girl would be interested in this stuff. And he happens to be part of the Soma family, who we will eventually all meet, who are cursed with the animals, so they're haunted by the spirits of the Zodiac creatures. So if they're ever hugged or ran into by the opposite sex, they change into an animal that has cursed them. So the Shigure, the guy who comes out who made all of them, he's cursed by the spirit of the dog. And Toru kind of ends up getting intertwined with this family because she's in a tent on their property, and they find out about this, and they're like, do you want to just live in our house? Maybe not the tent, because it's dangerous out here. and she is just one of those really trying to be independently strong female characters who is also just one of the most inspiring, positive characters I've ever seen in anything. It makes you want to be a better person, which, that's what I would love to watch, something that would inspire me to be better. And the way she is so kind and so accepting to all these people who are cursed with something that really, brings them down. They feel like they're not part of society even because they're cursed with these animals, and they've been cursed throughout, hundreds of years. Their family passes on this curse. Whenever one of the members dies, someone in their family is born with this curse, to where if it's a boy, when their mom gets to hold them for the first time, they turn into this creepy animal, and their mom usually is like, "Get this away from me, I don't love it, I don't want it." And so these are that's the tempo of this anime, is how can people find inner happiness within themselves or within their lives. And this one main heroine is somebody who drives this acceptance within all of these people. And it's just amazing, and it's one of those that makes you, like I said, want to be better, as a person, and more accepting as a person, and maybe realize that sometimes people don't always have it as good as you, or maybe they don't have it as good as you think they have it. So it's a really good learning anime, and the fact that they're rebooting it, I think they're on episode 9, and it's going really well. It's perfect. It's better even than the original. I would suggest watching the original first to get a kind of a feel for what this is going to be like. And I think I cried 3 times. It's just so good. And in this cursed Soma family, there is somebody who is cursed by the cat. And that person is known to be the most cursed of them all, because obviously he's not even accepted within the family of other cursed people. So it's just really interesting. It gives you a good, moral theme, and it also gives you just a good story to follow and keep in your mind. And I always kind of think about Fruits Basket, I do, and I'm this girl is just so kind, so beautiful. I know I'm not that. I know that, I've even talked to people about Fruits Basket and other people who follow it. I'm I know I'm not a Toru, but I would like to be like that.
Oh, man. That is absolutely spectacular. So, guys, we've gave you a list. We've given you stuff to watch. No complaining about absolutely nothing on TV, because we got those features, we got everything. So, with that being said, we're going to wrap up this edition of the Game Changer Podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening in. You can follow my co-host VicTori Belle on her Instagram as well as on Facebook. Leave a like, leave a comment, but also be respectful, guys, and some girls. Same thing on Twitter, guys. Follow me on there. Follow us on Facebook. And also be sure to give us a like, a comment, and also subscribe to us. We are available on Spreaker.com as well as on YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, the one and only Google Podcast, as well as I think we're going to be on Apple Podcasts, hopefully, by the time I'm saying this. I don't know. I've put everything in, so hopefully we'll get a thumbs up from that. And guys, I do have to do a nice little plug for one of the major things that I've been working with, and that is indeed the Wrestle Addict Radio. Definitely check these guys out. They are absolutely great for all your wrestling deals, keeping wrestling real. Follow these guys on Twitter. We have the Fourth Wall WrestleCast at Fourth Wall Cast. We have Not Your Mama Soap Opera, although your mama might enjoy it, at Not_Opera. Gift of Podcast at Gift of Podcast, as well as the Kings of the Rings Podcast at KOTR_podcast. Shout out to you guys. Yes, it's not a wrestling related episode, but you know something. Still appreciate the fact you give me a chance to shine at wrestling. So, with that being said, she's VicTori Belle. I'm NateFNGreat. And in honor of Rocket Man being absolutely awesome, I'm going to be playing a song that definitely had me misty-eyed, but also is one of my favorites from a certain musical that absolutely is awesome, and it is a guilty pleasure, let's face it. So thank you guys so much. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
My gift is my song, and this one's for you. And you can tell everybody that this is your song. It may be quite simple, but now that it's done, hope you don't mind, I hope you don't mind that I put down in words how wonderful life is. Now you're in the world. Sat on the roof and I kicked off the moss. Well, some of these verses, well, they got me quite cross. But the sun's been kind while I wrote this song. It's for people like you that keep it turned on. So excuse me for getting, but these things I do, you see, I've forgotten if they're green or they're blue. Anyway, the thing is, what I really mean, yours got the sweetest eyes I've ever that I put down in words how wonderful life is. Now you're in